project we are doing with the foundation is a project where we try to simulate the net costs or the net benefits of apprenticeship training from the perspective of a training firm in Spain, adopting a training model that is very similar. It has not to be identical, but very similar to the training models now used in Switzerland or in Germany. So we take a much higher macro level perspective and we say, well, let's assume that you import some of the features of a Germanic model and see what it produces in Spain. Now, my experience tells me the DNA of dual education or apprenticeship training, as we call it, is probably in the trainees themselves. If a company can hire as an employee a former apprentice, then that person is eager to transmit what she or he has learned as an apprentice. And our surveys, our research also shows most of the apprentices are very proud of the way they have chosen in the education system. Very often they are more convinced about their educational career than the young students who have chosen the general education. So for Spain, it would mean that for the beginning, it's hard, it's tough for a couple of years, but once the first generation of successfully trained apprentices would come out of the system, it would become more and more easy with every year. And the reason why I'm against these interventions is if we create a situation where a company only trains a young person to collect these benefits, I assume that the company is not convinced that the training model is a good business model. If the company is not convinced that it is a good business model, I suspect the company not to provide the good training. If every company starts to develop its training system, its training plans, etc., this is highly costly. And a lot of companies with few employees who would only train 1 or 2 apprentices once a year, that would be simply too costly. So if they collaborate, all the costs of establishing rules, of monitoring the rules, of developing the rules, they could be shared. Even some parts of the training could be shared. But another issue which is also important is a reason for, let's say, equality. If you want to promise the apprentice, you will get the same level of competencies independent of the firm you learn with. You have to guarantee some equalizing measures. And one of these equalizing measures is firms collaborate for common standards, and they also offer some of the training together to guarantee that all the apprentices have seen the same, were exposed to the same technologies.